Greetings, Flosstube. It is Thursday, November 8th, 2018, and it was my short work day today. So my plan was to come home, take a shower, get some ice dyed fabrics going, and stop in and do a redo on the video I tried to post on Halloween that didn't work, only to find out there is no water. I have no idea why there is no water. But around 2 o'clock, I called the apartment office because when I turned on the faucet, there was just a little thin stream of water coming out. And I had never seen any emails or anything from the office, from the rental office saying that we weren't going to have water today. So I was a bit peeved. I called them, and then about 5 minutes later, my husband sent me a text saying I just got a text from the apartment that there won't be any water for 30 minutes. So I was like, well, thank God for dry shampoo, although my hair still looks like crap. I apologize for that. Thank God for dry shampoo, and I'll just sit down and do the video I was going to try to do about a week ago. Actually, it was a week ago yesterday. Don't know what happened with that video, but it got all Godzilla out of sync with the talking and the audio. So I'm not really sure what happened, but at any rate, I ended up deleting it, and I was planning on getting a new setup anyway because it's just so darn dark in here. I know that filming on a webcam is probably not the best way to do it, and this computer that I film off of is probably 10 years old. Now the hard drive has been rebuilt since then. I'd say the hard drive is maybe 4 or 5, I think. I think 2013 was when we had it rebuilt. So the hard drive is newer. So admittedly, even filming it off of a desktop with a webcam is not the best way to do a YouTube video, but I don't have an iPhone, and my phone's been acting real jinky for a couple weeks anyway, so that's a whole other kettle of fish to deal with. So I do have, they're actually Selfie ring lights, and I'm going to actually turn them up a skosh here because you can. Now, these charge with a USB cable, so that's cool. They're rechargeable, and I can just charge them up and use them that way. And they're actually clamp-on ring lights that you're supposed to clamp onto your iPhone if you're doing selfies or videos and you need that extra light. What I did was, since it came in a 2-pack, I just put both of them clamped into my cell phone tripod, and I'm going to see if that helps. I've also decided the best time of day for me to film is afternoon, early to mid-afternoons, because I can open my blind and get a little natural light in. So hopefully moving forward, my videos will look a little better. They're never going to look as good as some people's, but I'm not in this for a competition. I'm not in this to, gain followers. I appreciate and respect every single one of my followers. But I'm not doing it for numbers of followers, and I'm not doing it to get free stuff to review like some people do. I'm not even trying to be an influencer in any way. I just don't have anybody in real life to share my hobbies with, and that's why I started a YouTube channel. It's admittedly very low tech and not the best video quality ever, but I'm not the videographer in the family. That's my husband. And he doesn't even have a Facebook account or an Instagram or Twitter account, so just know that when you watch these videos. So what I was going to try to do on Halloween night was I was going to show you some ice dye fabric results. I was going to show haul, and then I was going to show a little progress and one of my small finishes for my 20th anniversary project. So let's try this again, part 2. Hopefully the video won't be too terribly long. And hopefully by the time I'm done, I will have water back and I can go mix up the soda ash solution and actually get this ice dyeing set. I dyed 3 pieces the Sunday before Halloween, and they actually turned out really nice. They turned out completely differently than I thought they would. But that's the cool part of ice dyeing, and that's the part I would say save judgment until you wash the piece and dry it you wash the piece the final time and dry it, because it will look completely differently it'll look completely different than it does when it's wet. and something that you think might be too dark or too muddled or not a really pretty color will look totally different once you wash it that final time and dry it. So I actually tried a color combination that I had done before, but I used a piece of 18 count white Ada. Now, I had a metric crap ton of weird slices of Ada in my old stash, and I've been using linens and even weaves pretty much exclusively since 2014. So I think what happened was about 10 years ago when you stopped being able to find cross-stitch stuff in box stores, or maybe a little longer ago than that. And of course that was before I knew about all the stitching resources we have online and hand-dyed fabrics and things. I kind of freaked out a little bit, and I spent a lot of money buying fabric, Ada fabric. And I remember buying at least a yard of Ada off a bolt at Joann's. So I had a lot of scraps, and I was just messing around. Well, the Plum Blossom, I decided to see if it would be what it would look like if I mixed it with soft orange. And my difference in technique is now I am mixing my colors in plastic cups before I put them over the ice, because I noticed when I ice dyed, especially the first time I did it, let's say I wanted a maroon fabric with a little bit of gray. Well, I was dumping all the maroon over the ice and probably using too much dye for the effect I was going for, and then putting the pewter on top of the maroon, but it wasn't the distribution of colors that I wanted. I wanted it more like marbled and things throughout the fabric. So I decided to try it where I would do varying mixtures of the powdered dyes in plastic cups so that I could stir them thoroughly and get a better distribution of the colors, and I think it worked a lot better that way, and I think going forward that's the way I'm going to do it. So this one is Ada, and this one is Plum Blossom with soft orange, and a little teeny bit of seafoam bled over from one of the other ones I was doing. Or maybe that's Wedgwood Blue from the other piece. Yeah, that's the Wedgwood Blue because it's the bluey gray. But I don't mind that. It's kind of cool when you get bleed over from another piece. This actually is much, much more usable for me. The first piece I dyed with the Plum Blossom was just almost like bubblegum pink, and it was so bright, and I just really did not like the color. But this one is more of a muted purplish. I would say this is more like a mauve because it's kind of, the orange kind of took the toned down the pink a little bit and made it more like a purpley pink. So this is definitely a usable piece of fabric. Now the thing that I find interesting, you see these stripes here, that is where it was laying on the cooling rack. What I do is I have like a cookie cooling rack, and I sit that in a Tupperware bin, and I put that, put the ice over the fabric on that. And sometimes the fabric will freeze to the slots of the cooling rack, and every once in a while I get these little stripy things. But I think that's cool. And that one actually turned out to be a lot more subdued a pink than I thought. So that one actually turned out well. I would probably stitch, I think what I'm going to do is, because I really love down here where this swirl is the biggest, I have one of those little tiny Hindsight pieces, the Love to Dance one. If I stitch that for my niece, I will probably cut the selvage off here and use this little, because I meant to show you the selvage. You can tell that was one of the pieces I bought at Joann's because it had the DMC selvage on the bolt. But what I'll probably do is use this section here to stitch that little Hindsight thing for her, because I know she loves pink, and that's kind of swirly pink. So that one's pretty. Now this one is my second favorite. My first favorite of anything I've dyed, I actually dyed last Sunday, but this one is amazing. It is a natural 32 count natural linen, and this was pomegranate, soft orange, and then just the tiniest little bit of pewter just to give it those black specks sparkled throughout there. And oh my gosh, it is blood red. It is beautiful. This is amazing. Oh, and I think I put Wedgwood Blue in it too. Yeah. Yeah, I put Wedgwood blue, pomegranate, and soft orange, and a little smattering of pewter. And this, by far, the pomegranate is the hardest color to rinse out. Because after the ice melts and you've got these dyed fabrics, you run them under cold water until the water runs at least mostly clear, if not completely clear. And this one took a good 5 minutes of wringing out. Here, if I double it over on itself, you can see better, because of course with linen it's a very see-through fabric. But let me see if I can, there you go. And I mean, it took a good solid 5 minutes of wringing this out, and then it looked like every Halloween horror movie slasher psychopath showed up and killed someone in my bathroom, because it was such a, between the black and the red and even the Wedgwood blue to some degree, it just looked like blood going down the drain. I was like, oh well, it's Halloween's Wednesday, I guess it's appropriate. But that one turned out really, really nice. I really like the distribution, and this was again one of the ones that I pre-mixed the colors I wanted to use before I dumped them on the ice, and I think that's just a better technique for the look I'm going for. Now this one is a case in point of don't judge a fabric until you see how it looks when you finish it, because I did Wedgwood blue and orange, which I knew was going to turn it brown, but I wasn't sure exactly how the mixture was going to come out. And then a little splattering of pomegranate got in the middle of it. You'll see here in a second. But when I was rinsing it, it just looked like a really muddy, kind of dirty brown, and I was like, this is not going to be attractive, but I don't want to waste this piece, because it was a full-on piece of 32 count even weave, the natural, like the, not the fiddler's cloth, but like the natural cloth that has little flecks of brown in it. And I was like, you know, that's been in my stash for a while, but I don't want to waste it, so let's just see how it comes out. And it actually came out really nice. Now I'm going to have to back away, because this is a big piece of fabric to get the whole thing, or at least most of the whole thing in the camera. But it turned out really, really nice. I have to say that the brown and orange, and even that, I didn't mean to get that pomegranate in there, that kind of leached over from the other piece. Because I can put, like, depending on how I scrunch up the fabric, I can put up to 6 pieces on my cooling tray, and that way I can do multiples at once. So yeah, this was not supposed to be there. I did not put pomegranate in there, but it leached over from the other piece. But still, I mean, and you can kind of see, I mean, it barely showed up, but these little, this whole area was probably where there wasn't much, if any, ice. And the Wedgwood blue basically leached out to like a very pale, like slate gray. I mean, it almost is so pale that you can't even see it looking at the fabric. But, you know, this really turned out cool, and I could use it for 2 or 3 different pieces. So I just say, you know, just see how it looks before you judge it. See how it looks in the final analysis, because you might find that it's actually much prettier than you think. So last Sunday, after we beat Liberty University in triple overtime, once I recovered from the game, oh my God, I was exhausted. I swear I felt like I played the damn game, but we won. We won 62-59 in triple overtime after being behind by 14 for like, we had 53 minutes to win the game, and we had to tie the game in the last 7 minutes with 2 touchdowns, so we finally remembered who we were, and we won. That's all that matters. I don't care how we win as long as we win. So I was in a real good mood once I got some sleep and got over my exhaustion. And so I decided I was going to spend last Sunday doing some ice dyeing. And this one I did Wedgwood blue, wisteria, and a little plum blossom on a piece of natural colored 18 count Ada. I really think this turned out pretty. It's very confetti-like. It actually, confetti, if I were going to sell this, it'd probably be what I'd call it. Because it reminds me of like the funfetti frosting with all those colors then mixed in with the, you know. I think that really turned out. Now, the other thing I would tell you, just a little advice from just something I've learned myself over the course of doing this, is that when you have two very potent competing colors, it can be hard to make them look pretty. To me, you almost need like a really dark and then a more contrasting color. The seafoam is this teal green, and it is very, I mean, you don't need that much seafoam to get a really rich teal. That's another thing. You'll learn which colors are the most potent, and that you don't necessarily need as much pomegranate as you might need of elven lily or whatever. I really like how this broke down. It got almost a chromatography type thing to it, because this is much more green, but the seafoam will break down because it is a teal, so it'll break down into blue and green. And then the wisteria gave the nice real rich purple. And even up here, there's like a part where it broke down into more of a green, and there's a little bit of yellow where the teal was breaking down. So yeah, this one turned out pretty. I liked how that one turned out. Now this is a color combination I used, if you saw my first Flosstube interlude where I showed my first batch of ice dyeing. This was another version of the Plum Blossom, Wisteria, and Elven Lily. However, that one was on a white piece of Beta. This was a 32 count piece of tan even weave, and it took the colors completely differently. So it's no joke when a professional dye fiber artist will tell you, these are the colors I'm using, but don't expect them to all look the same, because the fabric takes differently, and you know, the fabric will take the colors differently, because like in this one, the pink at the bottom, that's the Plum Blossom. It was much more muted. Now granted, this was a piece of natural colored fabric, and the first time I used this combination of colors was on white, so that I'm sure had something to do with it too. But it's much more muted. There again, you can see the stripes from the cooling rack. I don't mind it. It looks good. I think a lot of times that, because when you use the soda ash, it's an exothermic reaction. I did remember something from science class all those years ago. So it gives off a little heat. Now it's not hot, but the fabric is a scotch warm. You put it on the metal cooling rack, and then you dump cold ice on it. You freeze the fabric to the cooling rack sometimes, and you get those stripes. But this one I think is a keeper. I have no clue what I would stitch on any of this fabric, by the way, but now this one was a toss-up. This one was a crapshoot, because I, for some reason, had a piece of 14 count Wedgwood Blue Ada. Don't ask me why. I don't even remember ever stitching anything on it. It was probably when I was going through my freak out over not being able to buy cross-stitch stuff at Michael's. So I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to do pomegranate, soft orange, and I think that was all that I used on this. Yeah, because the blue comes from the fabric. And I wasn't sure, you know, because I've only used natural or white, so I didn't know how dyeing over the top of another color was actually going to work. But I think this turned out really, really nice, and the effect from the ice was cool. This whole part over here, all the swirls, it reminds me, I don't know if any of you have ever seen like the shaving cream dye tutorials, because that was originally what I thought I was going to do, but I don't have a big enough space to spread out and be scraping layers of shaving cream off things, so I decided to go with the ice dyeing. But it kind of gives that marbled effect. And the orange kind of congregated into a brown down there, but it turned out really, really nice, I think, considering I had no idea what to expect from an already dyed piece of fabric. But this one, I know I told you that I had my favorite. This one is my absolute favorite piece of fabric that I have dyed in any of the ones, going back to September. And I call this one Nebula, and you'll see why. Is that not awesome? Believe it or not, it's probably going to show up on the camera as blackish blue. It's a real, like, purple blue. What I did was I used Elven Lily and Wisteria and put just the slightest bit of Plum Blossom in there, so the lighter colors in there are the Plum Blossom. But this is amazing. I love this. I love the mottled effect, the tie-dyed effect almost. I mean, it's not tie-dyed. Tie-dyed is much more structured than ice dyeing because, you know, you portion off the fabric and you use different dyes on each. So this is far more random, but look at that. Yes, I call this one Nebula. I don't know what on earth I would stitch on it, but this is my favorite piece that I've dyed so far. So I did place an order for some different dyes, and the dyes came yesterday. I've got some pale colors because I want to try contrasting colors. Like I got one called Melted Peep, and yes, that is it's a yellow. I don't know how bright yellow it's going to be. It strikes me as interesting that some of the powdered dyes are actually very colored in their powdered form, and some have barely any color, like Seafoam. If you saw the powdered dye, it doesn't look like anything, but the second you put it on the ice and it hits that ice and it starts to melt into the fabric, it's like this insanely bright teal. So the Melted Peep dye is actually yellow in the jar in its powdered form, so I don't know if that's going to be a bright one or not. It's going to be fun to play with. I got one called Wasabi, which is like supposed to be like a grass green, like a olivey grass green kind of color. I got the Melted Peep. I got one called Ron Burgundy, which is a limited edition color. It's based on the Pantone, it's the Pantone Fall 2018 colors, because see, the Dharma Trading Company, which is where I buy my supplies, they actually work with professional textile artists. So if you're dyeing clothes, you need to be a season ahead, because of course that's how the fashion industry works. So they've already got the spring 2019 colors out, which Melted Peep was one of them. Hummus, I'm assuming, is going to be like a brown, like a pale brown. And then I got Ecru. And what else did I get? The Ron Burgundy, the Ecru, the Melted Peep. Oh, and Ice Blue. So I'm going to be playing with those today if they ever put the water back on. So those are my hand-dyed fabrics that I've dyed. Now, it's been a while since I showed any haul, and I have to say that I don't know why I've gotten into stashing fabric like a maniac. Don't ask me why. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I really couldn't. But over the past, say, 4 or 5 months, I've bought some fabric, and I did decide to join the Fiberlicious Fabric of the Month for next year, so I signed up for that. And I signed up for that one for a fat eighth piece of linen every month. And then I signed up with the Needlework Corner Picture This Plus Baker's Dozen Fabric of the Month. And I've read that they will have they're still doing like the sampler colors. So it'll be a lot of muted, nice neutrals, because I don't have a lot of really neutral fabric in my stash. And I feel like it's always good to have neutrals on hand. Just, you know, you decide you're going to start something and you want to have some neutrals. So for those of you who watch my other videos that I've done that aren't Flosstube related, you saw that my parents gave me the new Retro 51 roller ball that's the Lockheed Vega tribute to Amelia Earhart. So the other half of the birthday present they gave me that they don't realize they gave me was 4 pieces of fabric from Picture This Plus. I bought a 36 count fat quarter of Heroic, which it's my go-to. It's one of my go-tos because I stitch a lot of patriotic stuff, and of course if you've seen it before, you know it's rather muted and it's just got some swirls of blue and red. And I'm hoping this piece of fabric, because it's 36 count, will be big enough for me to eventually restart the Air Force emblem for my cousin that I started years ago on Ada, and I just looked at it like a month or 2 ago, and I was like, oh, that's awful. I mean, I started it years ago and never finished it, but I'm at my point in my stitching now where I looked at that and I wasn't happy with it, so I'll restart that at some point. Then I got a 28 count piece of fat quarter of Ancient, which it's just kind of it's a neutral. It's got a little bluey slate gray in it, like it might look like maybe a piece of ancient tapestry or something, but that's a nice neutral. And then I got a piece of Heritage 28 count in the fat quarter size, And this is more of like a, it's neutral, but it's got a little tint of like green to it, you know, like how when paper ages, sometimes it gets that yellowish green kind of. It won't pick up on my camera, but it's kind of a, it's not green, but it's not tan either. It's kind of a combination. I don't know how to describe it really. And then the last piece I got, because I'm absolutely in love with this color, is feldspar. And it's a 28 count back quarter. And it's a slate bluey gray with a little brown in it. This is a nice, somewhat neutral color. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for the fabric, even though you don't know you gave it to me for my birthday. So there's that part of my haul. Then I found this absolutely amazing fiber artist she sells on Etsy under the name Hand Dyed by Rolanda. And I actually cut this fabric. I cut a piece, which reminds me I need to show that one too. When I went home back in September, I took a little, because I wanted to take cross stitch with me, because I was going to be there an extra day. I left on Thursday and came back on Sunday. So I knew I would have some downtime to stitch, and so I cut a piece of this to take with me for a little small that I started. But this is one of her pieces called Mars Dust, and it's a very pretty rusty brown neutral. I'm definitely going to have to order another piece from her at some point. But it's really pretty. It's a very pretty, like, rusty brown. It's a nice neutral, though. It doesn't have any wild color variations in it. But because the one that I bought of hers that has the wild color variation, she did not name this one. Now, I would personally call this Easter egg because it makes me think of spring. But it is a 36 count, 15 by 18 piece of fabric, and it is wild. And honestly, it looks like she ice dyed this one. I don't know that she did. I don't know what her techniques are. But I would have called this Easter egg if I had dyed it. But who knows what I'll put on that one. I might put a Carolyn Manning. But the problem is, well, I need to see. This one might be big enough because it's 36 count. I really want, once I finish my Heart is Full of Flowers, to stitch the Flower a Day stitch along, because it is amazing. But honestly, let's face it, I used to say Teresa Winsler was my favorite. Teresa Winsler, Sue Hillis, and Nora Corbett were my favorites. Well, now Carolyn Manning has jumped all the way over all three of them. Not that I don't still adore them. I have a soft spot in my heart for Sue Hillis because she used to live in Richmond. She was a Richmond-based designer. Now I think she lives in Ohio with her family. I think she moved to Ohio to be with her family, but she was in Richmond when I was getting into cross-stitching. So I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for her, and I'll always love Teresa Winsler's dragons and whatnot. But Carolyn Manning's geometric floral stuff has just shot over the top of everything that I ever thought was my favorite. And then I got a piece of Confederate Gray, just 32 count, from 123 Stitch, because I was thinking I was going to use it for one of my small pieces I'm doing, and then I decided I don't think so. Oh my god, you know when you use dry shampoo, it's got that baby powder smell? I swear that's like all I can smell in my nostrils right now. It's not a bad smell, but jeez. Oh, it's kind of, I may have put a little too much in my hair, but I need to take a shower anyway, and I can't because we don't have any water at the moment. Kind of stinks. Alright, so my latest finish is actually my number 4 out of 20 for the 20 Smalls for 20 Years project I'm doing ahead of my 20th anniversary next summer. This was the Heart and Hand Yay for Love, and I stitched it on a 32 count piece of mixed berry Jobelin that I got from Stitch and Frame, which is out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. And I used Jody Redesigns threads. The Yay for Love is the Ruby Slippers. Let's see, can I get it? There we go, maybe that's a little better. And then the hearts were the Variegated Havana Nights by Jody Redesigns. So I really thought that the fabric and the thread were a nice complement to each other in this piece. Now, believe it or not, I did actually, simplistic as this is, I had to frog some of the hearts on this side because when I got up to the top 3 rows, there wasn't lining up. And one of those hearts near the button was just off enough that it, I don't know why you can't focus. But it was just off enough that it messed it up, so I did have to frog that, but I'm happy with how it turned out. So after that one, I started number 5 of 20, which is the heart and hand, you and me. And I think the reason that I really, oh, one of my lights just burned out. I'll have to recharge it. I think one of the reasons I like this pattern so much is because it's got arrows, and when I'm not, okay, that's probably nobody I even want to talk to. Let me pause and I will be right back. Yeah, I was right. There was nobody I wanted to talk to. Somebody wanting to give me a new credit card. I don't even want the one I've got. So, anyway, good Lord. I swear, the ones that really crack me the hell up are the ones I get for aluminum siding. It's like, well, I'm in a brick apartment, so good luck with that one. I also adjusted the focus on my webcam. It's a manual focus, and I think if I sit up close enough now, you should be able to see it. Yeah, there we go. That's better. So anyway, so I finished that one, and then I started the You Plus Me, and I actually worked on this in the car before the, well, no, actually Bill let me into his office before the last game last weekend, before the Liberty game, and I sat in his office and stitched on a little bit of this. This is the You Plus Me. And what I was saying before that telemarketer so rudely interrupted me was that I think part of what I love about this is because I love arrows. And when I doodle, if it's not geometric shapes, it's arrows. And I don't know why, but I just love that particular aesthetic. I always, and I think too, part of it too comes from the fact that, like, when I write, I'm constantly like editing and putting arrows and things, so maybe arrows are just part of who I am, I don't know. But here's what I've gotten done. And I love those arrows. I'm probably going to work on this afternoon after I get my ice dyeing going, if the water ever comes back on. And this was a scrap piece of 32 count Jobelin from Picture This Plus, and I want to say it was the mellow color, right? I'm not sure. I don't remember. Because once I get down to, like, I mean, I'll keep the tag on a piece, like if I've got a fat quarter and I have it and use a fat eighth, I'll keep the tag on the piece. But once it gets to a certain size, like this kind of scrap, anybody's guess. So I think that was a piece of mellow, though. Right before Halloween, we lost to, well, no, we beat UConn right before Halloween. What was it that I didn't feel? Oh, well, right before the UConn game, the week before the UConn game, on October 22nd, I found out, along with the rest of my office, by complete default, because nobody knew, I found out that all our legal secretaries had been laid off. It was October 22nd. It was the Monday before the UConn game. And I was so upset and thinking about my future with the company. You know, all that kind of stuff was going through my head. And I really was not in the mood to work on My Heart is Full of Flowers, because that's the piece I'm doing for my 20th anniversary. And I don't want any negative feelings associated with that piece at all. So right before Halloween, I had to put away My Heart is Full of Flowers because I just couldn't. I don't want anything negative associated with it. So what I did was I pulled out something I started back in July and never really worked on it that much. I started Coffin Buzz, and I considered, well, it's almost Halloween, maybe it's appropriate, because I don't really stitch Halloween things. I'm not, being a woman who has no children to take trick-or-treating, and being that I kind of fell out of favor with a friend of mine who used to always have a Halloween party, Halloween's not really a big deal for me. I do dress up to go to work, and I was Wonder Woman, classic Wonder Woman this year, which hence the gold manicure. I think I'll get my nails done next week and get something quite subdued, but you know, all things considered, my nails are growing out, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, this was the Wonder Woman manicure. That's about all I do for Halloween, so I really don't stitch Halloween related things. But I started Coffin Buzz back in July, and I've almost got the angel's head done. I'll probably work on her a little bit this weekend after the game. Now the game's at Gillette, so Saturday, all of Saturday is taken up, but I'm going down tomorrow night. I'm just going to drive out after work and stay with Bill at the hotel, and so I'll probably have some time to stitch tomorrow night. Now this fabric is brilliant. This is a piece of Baroque by Picture This Plus. Any kind of morbid or Halloween stitching you might want to do, you should definitely consider a piece of this fabric because it looks moldy. I mean, it looks, the reason I chose this, I don't even remember why I bought it originally, but when I decided I was going to do Coffin Buzz, because yes, I'm dead I am dead to everybody in the morning before I have my coffee. You should have seen me, I guess today's Thursday, I guess it was Tuesday, I got up and I thought my coffee maker was broken. And I was getting ready to be really upset, and Bill's like, honey, you didn't close the lid all the way. Yeah, see, I'm crap for brains before I get my coffee. But yeah, this fabric, it's like tan and dark mauve and gray and greenish gray, and it just looks kind of like death or, you know, decay. So I would highly recommend a piece of Baroque from Picture This Plus if you want something really kind of morbid to stitch, you know, like if you're doing a Halloween thing or you're doing something kind of morbid, or you're doing some of those really kind of weird hades, you know, with like the demons and all that. That would be the perfect piece of fabric for anything like that. And so the only other thing I've worked on since my last video, well, that's not entirely true. I do have 2 starts that I'm hoping to get finished by next Thursday so that I can get them to my framer for our craft fair. I'll show you those. My Heart is Full of Flowers is coming along nicely. I've had so much fun stitching this. I've almost got it done. And what I'm going to do when I'm finished with it is I'm going to stitch, I've got like a bunch of seed beads and things from the Valentine Stitchy box from last year. So I'm going to use those and stitch some beads in between it. And then this is going to go to Jill Rensel for our 20th. I love it so much. This is the piece that inspired the Flower a Day stitch along that she put out that Carolyn Manning put out either last year or this year. It might have been this year that she, because I know the Twinchy project was this year, which are little 2-inch blocks, like little quilt blocks that are so cool. Because I don't quilt, I wouldn't know. I mean, it's funny. I watch sewing and quilting TV shows on like our public television station. Like, I was devastated when Nancy Zeman died, and I have never touched a sewing machine, but she had me convinced I could do it just from watching her show all those years. But yeah, I don't have a sewing machine, so I don't quilt. So I like cross-stitching quilt patterns because then I feel like it's sort of kind of quilted. But I need a sewing machine, like I need a hole in my head, because then that would be another hobby. As if I studying photography, journaling, and blogging, and creative writing aren't enough. I don't need another hobby. It's just, I can't, because I have to live to be 516 years old as it is to finish everything. So if any Flosstuber finds the Fountain of Youth, please share a sip of it with me. I promise I won't drink too much of it. So these last couple of pieces I'm going to try to get done. They're Lizzie Kate's. The Lizzie Kate Tiny Tidings 17. I am doing the Celebrate for our church craft fair. The little reindeer, and this is so wrinkled. I should be a little more careful with my pieces, but I've been stitching on this in my car on my lunch break the past few weeks. Well, not weeks, it's been maybe a week and a half. So this is what I've got done, and I just have to put the little snowbank and then the border on the bottom and stitch on the red button for his nose and stitch in the snowflakes. This is a scrap, and it's funny because I actually had to go back and look at the Instagram photo I shared last year of my Dad's Clouds Factory Christmas story piece that I stitched for him because it was a scrap of fabric left over from that, and I couldn't remember what it was. It's 32 count Jovelin in the jade colorway from Picture This Plus. So that one I'm almost done. And I love green. Green is one of my favorite colors. Purple is my absolute favorite. And then as an offshoot of purple, I like all these bluey purples, like the purples that trend more towards the blue side than the red. I love green, and I'm really becoming a fan of orange. I think I love orange because orange is so bright and cheerful, and I just love bright colors. So anyway, the other one that I've got two ready to go. Although I may not get the one stitched, and I may give that to our minister as a birthday present next year. I don't know. I haven't decided. I definitely want to have at least two to donate to the craft fair. But if I can get this one done in time, I'm doing the Mary, the little sampler. The Flip It. The Celebrate with Charm Flip It series. And I just started doing this. And of course, y'all know I'm a sucker for typography. It's funny because I used to swear that I would never up, down, and sideways do samplers. But I think what I should have said, because that's kind of cutting my nose off to spite my face, what I should have said is that I don't stitch just the plain alphabet number samplers. I love stitching samplers that have pictures and words. And this is as far as I've gotten on this one yet, but I love that font. I just love typography, I think. Because I love words and I love writing, and you know, it's just an offshoot of that. I'm stitching this on a 32 count piece of linen, and I believe it's the Serene colorway from Picture This Plus. It's a much lighter, almost like, so light you can't even tell it's green, piece of fabric. So I'm going to go work on that in a few minutes. But that's pretty much where my Flosstube activities have taken me since my last Flosstube video. You know, my priority is to have My Heart is Full of Flowers done by the first part of January so I can get it to her in time for our anniversary, because I know it takes about 4 months, and so if I get it to her by mid-January, that'll get it back to me by mid-May. And I'm continuing to work on the 20 Smalls for 20 Years project. And otherwise, I don't really have any deadlines. I'm not going to get Christmas ornaments made this year for the kids. I probably shouldn't say I'm definitely not. I'm going to try to, but I don't see that happening right now, just with as crazy busy as everything has been. Because I should have really started them a while ago, to be honest with you. But, so, after the first of the year, I just plan to work on whips and try to get some stuff done. I really would like to get my goddaughter's birth announcement done before she's graduating high school. She's not. She'll be 2 in May, so she'll be 2 on May 11th, so I should probably put that as a priority after I finish these other priorities. But what was it the much esteemed and beloved late Douglas Adams used to say? I love deadlines, I love the sound they make as they go wishing by, or whatever. Something like that. That's pretty much the way I am. I have always envied people who can be very organized as far as like keeping calendars and bullet journals and this, that, and the other, because, you know, I make an appointment, it gets written on the magnetic calendar on the fridge, and that's it. And, you know, I can't be but so organized. My brain just doesn't work that way. Like, hyper-organization messes with me somehow. Maybe I'm just making excuses for being lazy, I don't know, but to me, I need the spontaneity, and I need to just, I think that's why I've got so many whips going now, because I just need to be able to, okay, I'm going to work on, like with Coffin Buzz, I didn't feel like doing anything else, and I thought, okay, well, this one's easy, sure, I'll do this one, and I pulled it out and made a little progress on it. So, and I couldn't be a one piece at a time stitcher, because, like, inevitably, something gets fouled up, I have to frog, I get mad, I don't want to work on it, or I just get bored, you know, not that I have ADD, I don't mean for it to sound like that, because I've never had ADD, but I get bored too easily if I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's why I've got so many whips. So I think next year just try to continue paring down the whips and getting stuff done. Hopefully I can be back around Thanksgiving. I'm taking the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off, and I have the Friday the Friday after off. So, and if you're gonna do Black Friday shopping, you're a better person than I am, because I say screw it. And there's nothing out there that I can buy online either before or after Thanksgiving that I need to go put up with that crap to deal with. So if you can do it, if you have fun doing it, if that's your thing, good for you, because I would lose my stuff. There's no way. People being greedy and getting greedy over the last of the 96-inch color TVs, I don't need to deal with that, you know. There isn't a single thing my family needs or wants for Christmas that can't be gotten now. I could start doing my Christmas shopping online. So I plan to just basically do a lot of stitching that weekend, take some walks with my husband, and it'll be the first time since July that we've really had any time together, you know, because football season is over as of next Saturday. After the game at Georgia, you know, that's it for 2018. And a lot of the coaches go on the road to do recruiting. So it'll be nice to just have the time. And I just see myself, when we're not taking walks or watching football, just relaxing with my stitching. So hopefully in November I can come back with another video and show you some progress and maybe a couple more small finishes for this project. And so until then, I hope everything is going well for you. And I wish you happy stitching and a happy life, and I will see you soon.